الحمد لله وحده وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على من لا نبي بعده وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, He said, فَإِن كَرِهْتُمُهُنَّ, treat them with kindness, and if after treating them with kindness you find that you dislike them, you find that you dislike your women folk, you find that you dislike your wives, فَعَسَى أَن تَكْرَهُ شَيْئًا, then perhaps you may dislike a thing, وَيَجْعَلَ اللَّهُ فِيهِ خَيْرًا كَثِيرًا. Here Allah has reminded us that what we dislike from our wives is not our wives themselves, but it is shay'an. It is something within our wives. It is not what defines them, but it is something, some traits of theirs, or some behavior of theirs, or some incident that was negative, that was experienced from them. Perhaps you dislike shay'an, a particular thing. وَيَجْعَلَ اللَّهُ فِيهِ خَيْرًا كَثِيرًا, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will place an abundance of good within it. Al-Qurtubi rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, فَإِن كَرِهْتُمُهُنَّ أَيْ لِدَمَامَةٍ أَوْ سُوءِ خُلُقٍ, if you dislike them because you are not attracted to them, he said, or because they may have bad manners, مِنْ غَيْرِ ارْتِكَابٍ فَاحِشَةٍ نُشُوزٍ, without their having falling into adultery, or that which is close to it, or without them falling into nushuz, any open rebellion and obedience and disobedience against their husbands. فَهَذَا يُنْدَبُ فِيهِ إِلَى الْإِحْتِمَالِ, then this person is strongly recommended and urged to be patient, to bear the difficulty. فَعَسَى أَن يَؤُولُ الْأَمْرُ إِلَى أَن يَرْزُقَ اللَّهُ مِنْهَا أَوْلَادًا صَالِحِينَ, because perhaps Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala may bring about righteous children by way of this wife or other matters. Al-Imam Muslim rahimahullah ta'ala, he mentioned in his Sahih from the hadith of Abu Hurraira, لا يفرق مؤمن مؤمنة, that a believing man is not to hate or dislike or loathe the believing woman, meaning his wife, إن كره منها خلقا رضي منها آخر أو قال رضي منها غيره. شك الراوي. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, if he dislikes some characteristic of hers, then there are other characteristics or another characteristic that he will like. Shaykh Imām al-Allama Ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, فَالْوَاجِبُ عَلَى الْإِنسَانِ أَلَّا يُطَلِّقْ إِلَّا عَنْ رَوِيَّةٍ وَاقْتِنَاعٍ بِأَنَّ الْحَالِ لَا يُمْكِنْ أَن تُصْلَحْ. He said it is mandatory upon a person that they do not divorce إِلَّا عَنْ رَوِيَّةٍ وَاحْتِمَالٍ وَاقْتِنَاعٍ, and except after deliberation and thinking about it for some time and taking their time with the decision and being convinced أَنَ الْحَالِ لَا يُمْكِنْ أَن تُصْلَحْ, that the situation is beyond being repairable. فَإِنْ أَمْكَنَ إِصْلَاحُهَا, and if it is possible to repair the situation, وَلَوْ عَلَى مَضَادٍ, even if that may take some time, even if it may take a while, وَلَوْ عَلَى مَضَادٍ, even if it may take a while to do so, وَكَرَاهِيَةٍ, and even if in the interim period he may dislike or hate his wife, فَلْيُصْلَحْ, then the situation should be remedied, or فَلْيُصْلِحْ, and he should rectify the situation and make amends with his wife. وقال شيخه العلامة عبد الرحمن ibn Nasir al-Sa'di rahimahullah ta'ala, his sheikh, the great Imām, the scholar of fiqh and tafsir and usul, Shaykh al-Sa'di rahimahullah ta'ala, he says some words about this verse, that if you hate them, even if you hate them, then perhaps Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, you may hate a thing and Allah will place an abundance of good in that thing. He says some words that are perhaps the best thing that have ever been stated in the history of Islam by the scholars of tafsir. And speaking about this verse, he says in his book Tafsir al-Latif al-Mannan, what is called Mukhtasar Tafsir al-Sa'di, he says, may Allah have mercy upon him, أَيْ يَنْبَغِي لَكُمْ يَا مَعْشَرَ الْأَزْوَاجِ أَن تُمْسِكُوا زَوْجَاتِكُمْ وَلَوْ كَرِحْتُمُهُنَّ, meaning that it is befitting upon you, O husbands, that you hold fast to your wives and that you keep them even if you hate them. فَإِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ خَيْرًا كَثِيرًا. Your marriage doesn't have to be a fairy tale. Your marriage doesn't have to be something out of a romance novel. Your marriage doesn't have to be something off of the television. Some people, some homes, as we heard from the statement of Umar radiyallahu anhu, laysa kullu al-buyut tubna ala al-hub. Not all homes are built upon love. ولكن معاشرة الإسلام وعلى الأحساب. But rather, oftentimes homes are built upon just treating each other like Muslims and wanting to keep the family strong. As Shaykh Asadi said, فَإِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ خَيْرًا كَثِيرًا مِنْهَا. There is a lot of good in doing so. From that good, امتثال أمر الله ورسوله. Firstly and foremostly is that you are implementing the commandment of Allah and the commandment of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam by being patient and holding fast to your wives even if you hate them. الذي فيه سعادة الدنيا والآخرة. And in doing so, you will experience flourishing and felicity in this world and in the next. وَمِنْهَا أَنَّ إِجْبَارَهُ نَفْسَهُ وَمُجَاهَدَتُهُ إِيَّاهَا مَعَ عَدَمِ مَحَبَّةِ زَوْجَتِهِ تَمْرِينٌ عَلَى التَّخَلُّقِ بِالْأَخْلَاقِ الْجَمِيلَةِ. Likewise, from the benefits of that, is that by a person forcing himself to be a way that he doesn't want to be, and fighting against himself to be with this woman while not loving his wife anymore, it trains him to have beautiful character. وَرُبَّمَا زَانَتَ الْكَرَاهَةِ وَخَلَفَتْهَا الْمَحَبَّةِ. And perhaps that momentary hatred would disappear and be replaced by marital love. وَرُبَّمَا زَانَتِ الْأَسْبَابِ الَّتِي كَرِهَهَا لِأَجْلِهَا. And perhaps those reasons that you dislike her for would disappear and go away. وَرُبَّمَا رُزِقَ مِنْهَا وَلَدًا صَالِحًا نَفَعَ اللَّهُ بِهِ وَالِدَيْهِ فِي الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ. And perhaps Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala will bring about righteous children that He will benefit both parents with in this world and the next. وَلَا بُدَّ لِهَذِهِ الْكَرَاهَةِ min asbabi min azawja. And there is no doubt that this dislike or hatred that the husband has for his wife, that there are reasons that came from the wife to cause it. فَيَنْبَغِي إِذَا كَرِهَ مِنْهَا خُلُقًا لَذِهَ بَقِيَّةَ أَخْلَاقِهَا. And so if there are some traits of hers that he hates, then he needs to look at the rest of her qualities and the rest of her character. وَمَا فِيهَا مِنَ الْمَقَاصِدِ الْأُخَرِ. And he needs to look at the rest of the wisdoms of marriage and the wisdoms of staying together. وَيَجْعَلَ هَذَا فِي مُقَابَلَةِ هَذَا. And he is to weigh between the two, between the harms and the benefits. The harms of his personal pride being offended, the harms of his wife not loving him like he would want to love her, and that sort of thing, and the benefits of everything that comes as a result of being patient. As the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam thabata anhu annahu qal, he says sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, وَعَلَمُوا أَنَّ النَّصْرَ مَعَ الصَّبْرِ. Know that victory and triumph comes by way of being patient. A person is patient and he wins in all sorts of ways. And he says sallallahu alayhi wa sallam thabata anhu, he says sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, وَمَا زَادَ اللَّهُ عَبْدًا بِعَفْوٍ إِلَّا عِزًّا. An account of pardoning, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never increases the servant in anything except for dignity. So the person, he pardons, and he is patient, and he wins, and he is victorious, and he is dignified, and his family is strong, and generations of Muslims come from him, as opposed to being in his bag, as opposed to being in his emotions, as opposed to being caught up in his feelings like a bint. He should be patient, and he should pardon, and he should overlook, and he should not out-emote his wife. If she is emotional, he should respond to that emotion with razana, with al-hazm, with al-azm, with maturity, and being a serious adult. Listen to the speech of this Imām. He says, rahimahullah ta'ala, may Allah have mercy upon him, وَهَذَا عُنْوَانُ الْإِنصَافُ الرَّأْيِ الْأَصِيلِ. He said in this, by doing that, by weighing the harms and the benefits of the situation, this is that which identifies the reality of insaf, of his being fair and treating others like he would want to be treated, وَالرَّأْيَ الْأَصِيلِ, and looking at the matter objectively and having strong-mindedness. فَإِنَّ النَّزِقَ الطَّائِشِ, he said, for certainly the person was other than that, who is naziq at-ta'ish, and naziq al-khafif al-aql. The person who is naziq, the person who is weak-minded, he said, at-ta'ish, the person who is brash and reckless, الذي ليس عنده إنصاف يلاحظ بعض أغراضه نفسية, who doesn't have any fairness in looking at the situation, or levity or balance in looking at the situation. He just looks at some of his own personal aghrad, some of his own personal self-interest, and how he is not getting what he wants out of this situation. فَإِذَا لَمْ يَأْتِي عَلَى مَا يُرِيدْ أَحْدَرَ الْمَحَاسِنِ وَالْمَنَاقِبِ, and if things aren't as he wants, if things aren't coming into existence that he wants, then he ignores all of the good aspects of their marriage and all of the merits of his wife. وَهَذَا لَا يَكَادُ يَصْفُ لَهُ خِلٌّ, and a person who is like this will hardly ever have a friend. He will hardly ever find somebody to love him. As the Salaf, they used to say, مَنْ لَا يَصْلُحُ لِأَهْلِهِ لَا يَصْلُحُ لَكَ. The person who is not right for his own folks, for his own family, for his own wife, لَا يَصْلُحُ لَكَ, is not going to be a good companion for you. If he is not a good companion to his own wife and to his own woman folk, لَا يَصْلُحُ لَكَ, then he won't be a good companion for you. He says, rahimahullah ta'ala, وَهَذَا لَا يَكَادُ يَصْفُ لَهُ خِلٌّ أي خليل في حياته. This person will hardly ever find that they have a true friend or a true companion who loves them in their life. A person who is reckless like that, and a person who is hasty like that. وَلَا زَوْجَةٌ وَلَا صَاحِبٌ وَلَا حَبِيبٌ. They won't have a wife that they stay with very long. They won't have a companion that they stay around very long, except that they have a falling out. وَلَا حَبِيبٌ, or any other person that they claim to love. بَلْ هُوَ سَرِيعَ تَقَلُّبٍ, but rather this person is quick to change their stripes. وَأَمَّا الرَّجُلُ الْحَازِمُ, but as for this serious man, and Imām Sa'di rahimahullah ta'ala says, الْوَفِيُّ الذَّكِيُّ, and he who has integrity, and he who has al-wafa, who has loyalty towards his wife. Al-wafa is that a person fulfills the rights of another because of their sawabiq, because of the goodness that has come from them, that they have reciprocity, that they don't judge a person and define a person based on their worst moments and based on their worst statements. The person who is dhakiyun, wafiyun, ar-rajul al-hazim, the serious man who is intelligent, فَإِنَّهُ يُوَازِنُ بَيْنَ الْأُمُورِ, is the one who weighs between matters. وَيُقَدِّمُ الْحَقِّ السَّابِقِ وَيَفِي بِالسَّوَابِقِ, and he gives precedence to the rights of the history that they have together. وَيَفِي بِالسَّوَابِقِ, and he fulfills the rights that are connected to the history that they share. وَيَكُونُ نَظَرُهُ لِلْمَحَاسِنِ أَرْجَحْ مِنْ نَظْرِهِ لِلْمَسَاوِي, and he looks more at the good aspects of the marriage and of the woman than looking at her masawi, at her negative traits. فَإِنْ وَصَلَ إِلَى دَرَجَةِ الْعَالِيَةِ الَّتِي لَا يَصِلُ إِلَيْهَا إِلَى أَفْرَادُ مِنْ كُمَّلِ الرِّجَالِ